Hey everybody, welcome to Digital Wonder. Today we're going to go over the topic of how to handle change in your life. As much as we'd like our lives to stay the same forever, change is an unavoidable part of life. Whether change comes in unforeseen circumstances or something you actually planned, it's something that you need to manage so that it doesn't overwhelm you. Let's take a look at some of the ways you can handle these changes without drowning in stressful situations. Make sure to watch until number 11 because it's one of the most amazing tips to handle change I've ever seen. Tip number 1. Accept that change is happening. Whether it's a wanted change or not, especially if it's not, you should begin handling this change by accepting that this change will happen, no matter how much you ignore it. It's easy to be in denial and put things off as much as you can, but when that change arrives or when it starts to create visible, real differences in your life, it can put you in a stressful situation. Denying the change is only a temporary measure to alleviate your stress. By accepting the change as soon as possible, you can then move on to managing the change in your life. Tip number 2. Remember that a certain amount of stress will come with change. Even if the change is a very wanted one that you've wished for so long, there will always be some amount of stress that comes with it. For example, a promotion at your workplace might be something you've wanted, but that still means you have to take on more potentially stressful responsibilities. You might be getting ready for your little one to arrive, and we're all aware of the stressful situations newborns bring. Stress is just one of the ways our bodies deal with changes, and we should accept it as a normal part of life. Tip number 3. Stick to the schedule that you already have. When the change in your life is starting to become too much for you to handle, going back to the familiar routine of your life can be just the break that you need. You can still make your coffee every day, even if you're doing it in a new apartment. You can still do the same commute routine even when you're starting a new job. You can still walk the dog every morning once your baby arrives. These are tasks that require little to no mental effort because you've been doing them for so long. These low-effort tasks let you take a break from the stressful change you're going through. Tip number 4. Watch what you're eating, or not eating. Many of us turn to food when we're stressed out. For you, it can be the boxed macaroni and cheese you always had when you're younger. Maybe it's a brownie, or maybe it's a whole pizza. When eating carbs, which is highly present in the food I just mentioned, we get a boost in serotonin, or the hormone that can become depleted when we are in a state of stress. While stress eating is the more well-known phenomenon, some have the opposite problem. They lose their appetite when in stressful situations. The stress can overtake their lives so much that they ignore their body's hunger signals. Over or under eating is generally not good for your health, so it's good to be aware of how you're eating during periods of stress. If you need to, you can write down what you've eaten during this period to make sure you're eating just the right amount. Do note, however, that it's not recommended to do this if you have a history of eating disorders. Tip number 5. Exercise. Exercising is always a good idea, but here it can also be tied with our previous tip of grounding yourself to your regular schedule. By doing something as simple as a 10-minute walk, you can raise your endorphin levels, a hormone that triggers positive feelings in your body. It can also reduce symptoms of depression, ward off anxiety, boost self-esteem, increase the quality of sleep, and many other great side effects that will help you deal with the stress that comes with change. Tip number 6. Be more proactive. Proactive means acting before something has happened, as opposed to being reactive, which is acting after something has happened. To be more proactive, look at a change you know will happen and come up with strategies to alleviate the stress that you also know will come with that change. For example, you're moving to a brand new city where you don't know a single person and have close to zero support network. You can deal with that situation by looking up ahead of time certain interest groups within the area where you can try to make friends. If that seems too intimidating, You can try to schedule check-ins through video calls with your friends and family so you can feel a little less lonely as you slowly grow a new support network. Being proactive works for unplanned changes too. You can schedule yearly physical checkups to get ahead of any medical issue you may have. You can put away a little bit of cash for emergencies. You can create and practice emergency drills for your household in case of earthquakes, fires, tornadoes, or other disasters. Tip number 7. Make a plan. Though change can be unpredictable, there are still some ways you can plan them out. For the changes you know will happen, like moving houses, having a child, or getting married, space them out so that you can deal with them one at a time. You'll have more mental space to deal with whatever stressful situations you have, and you won't have to split your attention on multiple things. This can work for unplanned changes too. It's a good idea to have some kind of plan for when disaster strikes. When you're in a highly stressed mental state, it's easier to look at and follow a plan that you've already made instead of trying to figure things out in the middle of a literal or metaphorical storm. Tip number 8. Reach out to someone. You might be tempted to figure everything out by yourself, but humans are social creatures by nature. When you're feeling especially helpless, talking with a therapist, a trusted friend or family member, or maybe even a neighbor can help alleviate some of the worries you have about the changes happening in your life. They might even have a solution for you that you never even thought of. Sometimes it can be extremely helpful to have an outsider's perspective on your situation. Tip number 9. Think of the positives. While some changes are welcomed, some can be a bit scary and overwhelming. A good exercise to do when faced with these kinds of change is to think about the potential positives that will come from the change. For example, uprooting yourself to a new country can be extraordinarily stressful, but you might find new people and new experiences that you would have never encountered otherwise. Maybe your breakup led you to a realization of what's truly important in your life. If you're at a loss of how to come up with positives, try to think of change not as an ending to things, but as a new beginning of something else. Tip number 10. Start small. Changes are never easy, but they can be particularly hard for some. If you find yourself extremely resistant to change, try practicing with smaller changes first. It can be something as simple as changing your usual route to work or what you have for breakfast. Get yourself used to the idea that changes aren't bad and can even bring positive things. Maybe you'll find a new coffee shop on your new route that you would have never discovered if you hadn't changed your route, or found your new favorite breakfast by trying new things. When you're used to small changes, then the big ones won't seem as scary and intimidating. And last, but certainly not the least, tip number 11. It's going to be okay. Change is scary, and more than likely you will make mistakes as you try to handle this change. The thing is, no humans are perfect. We all make mistakes. What is important is that we learn from the changes and mistakes. We can get so comfortable with our current state of being that we often don't see the faults in it. We should embrace change and look at it not as some disruptive force that threatens us, but as an opportunity to learn more about ourselves and others. And if you do make a mistake, you can always turn it into a funny anecdote to tell your loved ones in the future. Those are 11 tips you can incorporate into your life to handle change, big or small, wanted or unwanted in your life. Remember that no matter what, change and the stress that comes with it can always be brought down to a manageable level to lead a better, happier life. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss more videos of handling change in your life and much more. Check out this playlist of our top 10 videos of psychology tips, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care!